All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, January 13th. We got a decent-sized NBA slate, 8 games to jump into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the spread, give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that I like within the games. But as always, all of my final plays, if you do want to fade me and do the opposite of my picks, those plays will be in the pinned comment. I update that throughout the day, so make sure to keep an eye on that. Last night, not a very fadeable night. We went 3-1. One of the wins was a 2-unit play, and then the only loss we had was a half-unit play. So you know what? We'll take the cha-ching. We'll take some damn crowd noise here. Tyrese Maxey's under cashes. DeMar DeRozan's over and assist cashes. And then Victor Wembanyama over 1.5 first quarter rebounds for 2 units cashes. Very juiced play, but still wanted to take it. I think he had 3 in the first quarter. And the only one we didn't hit here was Jaden Ivey over 2.5 3-pointers made. If you watch yesterday's video back, it was more of a flyer anyways because of volume, not because of the shooter that he was. And we got some good odds. But nonetheless, I will take a 3-1 night with the one loss being a half unit and then the win, one of the wins being a 2-unit play. So definitely a good night over there. The fun does have to stop though. The ride of the day here coming in from V-neck, Bruce Brown over 21.5 PRA. Bruce Brown did not have his best stat sheet night, and we got to drop the womp-womp here for V-neck. So unfortunately, Bruce Brown, like I said, doesn't have the best night here. If you guys do want a chance at being the ride of the day, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me an absolute banger of a play, and I'll be jumping on board with one person's pick in the comments, giving you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Also shouting you out over on X. Make sure to follow me there at EvGuyBoston. And if you win, you continue to get ridden on until you lose, which sounds weird saying out loud, but if you win, we keep riding with you, and then you guys will keep getting shout outs. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We're doing that now as well as kind of new on the channel. Fred, shout out to Fred, being that the last one went 5 straight videos. But guys, use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Now let's go ahead and jump into game number 1 here. We're looking at my Boston Celtics taking on the Houston Rockets. This spread is massive, and it just must be because 1, the Rockets are on a back-to-back, and 2, the Celtics, having pretty much, their normal rest and then some, because the starters didn't even play in the second half against Milwaukee. So obviously the books are pretty confident with this number. This opened up at 14.5, and it's moved up to 16. So it's like they truly trust that. Now I think it's too many points. You're not going to catch me laying 16 points here, but I think I understand why this number is so high. Again, Houston on the road. There's a lot of factors here. Houston on the road, Boston at home. Those are 2 reasons why, the Celtics should win this game handily. Celtics coming off of a bad loss. They should have a little fire under their ass, right? Houston on a back-to-back in a game against the Pistons in which they didn't look all that great. So I do think that, this number is where it is for a reason, obviously. It's not outlandish. It's not like, I'm jumping and racing to the window to bet Houston either, right? I think I do lean towards Houston because it is just too many points, but I'm not going to make that a final play, remotely, because again, this number started lower and it's only gone up. So these people that are setting lines usually, know what they're doing a little bit here. So I'm going to trust it and not really touch that spread. It's just a little bit too big to me. What I will say is the over I like in this spot. 229 I think is based on the fact that Houston does have good defense, but Houston's defense is a lot different on the road than it is at home. So I'm going to look at that and say the Celtics could drop 120 in this game. And if Houston even remotely makes it a game, I like the over in this spot. Now, from a player prop perspective, tried to dig. Nothing really jumped off the page at me here, so I'm probably sticking away from this game player prop wise. The only thing that I would consider for final plays, again, would be the over, but not the sexiest of games in the first place overall. All right, next up, we have Atlanta taking on Washington. I think this is going to be a messy game. To be completely honest, I don't love much in this game. It's, again, like we just talked about the Celtics Rockets. This isn't the sexiest of games on the slate either. But my first lean in the spot immediately went to the under. Now, I know it's crazy. 2 teams that played no defense and have had a bunch of overs hit this year. But both of these teams aren't necessarily efficient offenses whatsoever, right? So I look at this and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, they're going to shoot, a decent amount and X, Y, and Z. But 250.5 seems a little bit too high. Now, what may stop me from making this a final play, and maybe you guys can consider it too, is the fact that there is no defense. And if you look at these 2 teams, it's like, well, Yeah, this Washington team has allowed, in terms of points per game, the most points to opposing teams this entire season. And then Atlanta, on the other hand, has allowed the second most points. So it's like you could have a messy, not efficient offense go up against either one of these defenses, and somehow, their points will get a 10% lift, right? So makes it a little bit, weary or cautious in terms of me wanting to take the under, but I just can't get myself to the over based on the offenses at hand here. Nothing major from an injury perspective for either team too, so that's worth noting. From a spread spot here, I guess I just lean towards Atlanta because I think Washington is that much worse. I do think Atlanta, has struggled, and I don't even need to say I think Atlanta has struggled, and even when they're at home they've struggled. They're the worst against the spread team in the entire league, so it might be what keeps us from laying 6.5 points here, but you're not going to catch me betting Washington anytime soon, especially when their last 2 games they won against the spread and then they pushed against Indiana. It's like, all right, they don't do this 3 games in a row, right? They lost both of those games fairly handily, but you know what I mean? It's like I don't think that they cover in a sense 3 games in a row. Now, from a player prop perspective, I wouldn't mind looking at some unders in this spot. I think Tyus Jones, his lines here, points plus assists, points plus rebounds plus assists. I do think, looking at him, it's like, well, he just doesn't have that offensive volume. His potential assists are there. We can chalk that up to him. So maybe we do leave, for example, assists off of it, but even still, his assist line here, sitting right at, I just had it up, sitting right at 6.5. It's like, that's a little bit too high for a guy that's averaging 9.6 potential assists, right? Like, I have him pegged more to go ahead and get 5 or 6 at most assists. So I'd look at his unders just overall because I don't think that he's as involved as we'd like to see. The one thing, and like I said, I like to tell you guys both sides of the story, right? Easy for me to say he doesn't get that many potential assists and blah, blah, blah. Well, Atlanta is averaging the second most assists allowed to opposing point guards. So there's that to consider as well. Memphis, or I guess I could say the shell of what Memphis once was without injuries, taking on the Knicks here. Memphis getting 8 points at home. They are coming off of the back-to-back loss against the Clippers. Though they didn't cover, they had 8.5 points. They made that game closer than I thought. They were definitely not in control of it, but I'll give them a little bit of credit for only losing by what they lose by 9 when they were 8.5 point dogs. It's like, yeah, they were right there to cover. It doesn't impact me coming into this game, though. I do think that this is a Knicks team that, if they didn't get Kyrie in the last game, this is a team that had been rolling, is rolling, covering big numbers as well. Like Portland, that game was telling to me that the Knicks, actually back-to-back games, the Knicks had big numbers, -9 and then -13 against Washington, and then Portland. They covered both of those games, so I'm not really fearful of this 8 number. I like the spot for them here. Jalen Brunson is questionable, though. If he's a no-go, then we probably don't touch this 8. If he gets ruled in, I could see us laying 8 points against the Grizzlies here. Again, they're just broken, bruised. Like they don't want this season, right? Now I talked about it yesterday. I mean, they do have that sort of Memphis Grizzlies grit to them, so maybe that keeps them in close games, but I thought that yesterday, and it just wasn't enough based on the talent. Again, like this starting lineup, Jacob Giard, Luke Kennard, Williams, Jackson, and Tillman, it's like Jackson's the only guy that has like promise, right? That's their starting lineup. It's tough. I will say, I think Derrick Rose is likely to play, which maybe they get that sort of veteran status back, I guess, if you want to make that case, but even Desmond Bane here, he might not be playing in this spot, so it's like, all right, you got to look at the Knicks, right? They were rolling. If they didn't get Kyrie, it makes sense for them. Now, from a player prop perspective, we can jump into Outlier here, guys. If you want to check out Outlier, I do have a link in the pinned comment. Talk about them all the time, so you know what? I'll just show you what it is versus trying to sell you on it. But you can get 7 days free with the link in the pinned comment. I actually like Julius Randle's under 45.5 points, rebounds, and assists. If we filter to Memphis' defense over here, you could see they're top 10 in preventing points, rebounds, and on the season, the fewest amount of assists to the power forward position. He does have a tough matchup, Jaren Jackson Jr. there as well, and he's hit this under here in 76% of games this year. And much like why we took Maxi's line yesterday, I'm not hating on the player, but the line seems a little bit inflated in what truly could be a potential blowout spot here. Not blowout, but like, does Julius Randle need to go balls to the wall for them to beat Memphis? No. Now, again, Jalen Brunson doesn't play. This play, we take it throw it away because Julius Randle is going to be the Knicks, and he's going to be the only one that they rely on from scoring. So if Jalen Brunson doesn't play, I think we pivot to taking a peek at Dante DiVincenzo's over. So I think that that's going to be a big usage lift. The guy's been playing well as of late as well. So a lot of Brunson injury sort of like watching to do today. But again, if they're at full strength and Brunson does play, I don't mind Julius Randle's unders because I don't think they'd need him to go balls to the wall to win this game. And he has a tough defensive matchup there with JJJ. In terms of a total here, 223. I liked the under. I don't think we make it a final play, but I don't think Memphis's offense is going to kind of return to form in which you can confidently start taking them in any regard. Now, I was impressed by 119 yesterday against the Clippers, but I do think this Knicks team just has figured out a way to play some really good defense prior to that Dallas game in which, again, Kyrie went ballistic. They dropped 128 on them, right? The few games prior to it was 106, so this is 5 games prior to 106, 100, 92, 101, and 84. Like they were playing good defense, albeit Portland, Washington, Chicago, Minnesota, Philly mixed in there, but like not the best of offenses, but still, I like the under. I think the Knicks play a little bit of defense. The thing that sucks is that it is a small number there at 223. All right, guys, before we continue on with the slate, I want to talk to you about OddsJam. If you have not checked out OddsJam yet, now is the time to do so. You get 7 days free as well as 25% off your first month. I really love this tool, guys. I just made a video on arbitrage betting and going through how much we could make in a week there with sort of a normal sized bankroll, but this is the arbitrage screen. If you don't know what that is, essentially you can take a play on both sides. For example, this one right here, right? So you're looking at Pittsburgh Steelers total touchdowns over Steelers and Bills over 4.5 on Fanatics and then under 4.5 on ESPN. Why would you take both sides, huh? Well, that's because if you went over and put say $50 over on Fanatics here on the over at plus 260, and also went and took the exact opposite of your own bet, minus 240 over on on ESPN bet here under 4.5, and put 127.06, they do the math for you, you could profit $3 guaranteed because of the odds discrepancy. Arbitrage betting, it's really something that I've been trying to do a little bit more here. Obviously, it takes a lot to make a lot, but it really is that cool. And this is just one of the tools that OddsJam has to offer, guys. Go check it out. 7 days free, right? They have the positive EV tool. They have the fantasy optimizer for prize picks and all that. They have the arbitrage betting school. They also have the sportsbook screen, which if we can get it load quick enough, I'll pop it up here for you guys, because this screen is absolutely awesome. All right, it's loading right now. So this is the sportsbook screen, right? Literally all of the money line plays the NFL. That's what we have it filtered to, right? I know it's a basketball video, but whatever. They literally look at all of the sportsbooks out there and give you the odds as well. Literally like almost every sportsbook in existence, and give you the best odds available and the average odds. So you know whatever sportsbook you're playing on, you're getting the best lines on, guys. Go check it out, guys. Again, 7 days free, and you get 25% off using code GUYBOSTON. Use that link in the pinned comment. Let's go ahead and jump back into the slate here. OKC taking on Orlando, and this spread is absolutely massive. Now, I know that OKC is playing good basketball, and the Magic have been kind of injury riddled, right? But this is a weird number to me. Like, truly, I don't think I put the Magic in that, like, that Blazers and Washington category whatsoever, right? Nor do you. So where does this number come from? I'm a little bit confused. Again, OKC was at home against Portland, and they were 13.5-point favorites. Now they're playing Orlando, and yes, OKC has the rest advantage. Yes, they're the best, against the spread team this year, but that's a lot of points. So I think that I lean Orlando, but kind of reluctantly, because you're betting against one of the best against the spread teams in the entire league. But Orlando, even this season, right, on back-to-backs 4-3 against the spread, nothing, too alarming there, nothing too crazy. They are on a back-to-back here in which they kept that game close against Miami. But there are some injuries to note here. So Wendell Carter Jr., Gary Harris, Franz Wagner, all questionable here. So Franz Wagner coming back would be a good lift to Orlando, and actually it makes me like Orlando keeping this game close. I think OKC wins this game. I'm not trying to say that they win this game, Orlando wins this game, but it's just a weird line to me. So if you guys have any sort of inkling as to why this line is so big, let me know in the comments, because again, they played just about 2 weeks ago, and they were in Orlando, but this spread was way smaller. So wondering why it is so high, and why, I guess, overall too, it is where it is, because if you look at where it opened, it's 11.5. So it's gone down to 11, back to 11.5. So it seems like it's kind of sticking right there, tried and true. But give me Orlando here. I think it's too many points. I'm not saying they win the game, but it's just too many points for me to comfortably lay as OKC. From a total perspective, 231. I do like the over in this spot. Again, I think I talked about it yesterday. That I don't love this Orlando defense as of late. Now, they held Miami to 99. I get that, but this Orlando defense is a little bit sort of glitchy as of late, and not for good reasons. They really haven't clicked. They haven't been able to keep teams' pace totally down. Sacramento drops 138. Denver, who doesn't love to play all that fast, dropped 120. Orlando did win that game, but still we're looking at it from a pace perspective, right? And then even Minnesota, who they don't choose to play really fast either. They rely on their defense. They scored 113. So OKC should be able to put up 120-ish in this game, which means that 231.5 is super attainable. From a player prop perspective, and I don't love the matchup, so I'll jump right out and say that. But if they don't have Wendell Carter Jr. today, I like this matchup a little bit more. But I'm going to go Chet Holmgren again. Looking at his over points here, 17.5 is what we're looking at. He's hit this in 7 of his last 10. This season, he's hit in about half of his games, but over his last 20, it's gotten even better, 55. But again, last 10 is what I'm looking at here. He's hit in 3 straight and 7 of his last 10. In one of those losses in his 10, he ended with 17 points. And the field goal attempts have just been looking really, really good here. Last 4. 15, 14, 15, 13, right? I'd love him to get to the line. Like, this is an easy cash if he gets to the line plenty, right? But we don't have that consistently. But I'd love him to get to the line. It's not like Orlando doesn't play physical or anything like that, too. Give me Chet Holmgren here over 17.5 points. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we do roll with that. All right, next up, Milwaukee taking on Golden State. I like this game for the entertainment part of it. I don't like this game from the spread perspective. Now, Milwaukee, I do think is going to win this game. I can't really get myself to trust Golden State on the road. I know they just beat Chicago last night, but again, Milwaukee sitting here after a pretty momentous sort of, and momentum building, I should say, win against Boston 135-102. The fact that the Celtics didn't even want to try in the second half should build a little momentum for Milwaukee. So I'll lean Milwaukee laying the points here, but again, it's a little bit too high of a number for me. Now, the total sitting at 246 in this spot. I like the under. Again, I think that if Milwaukee wins this game, we could see a game in which they control the game and win it pretty handily, meaning Golden State doesn't get their normal amount of offensive rhythm and you know, blah, blah, blah about that. You know, I don't think that this is a team that I'm going to trust overall when it comes to being on a back-to-back and everything like that to fire on all cylinders. So yeah, give me the under. It just seems like it's a little bit too high of a number. From a player prop perspective, nothing overall jumps out at me. Steph Curry's under 10.5 rebounds plus assists. I don't mind. That thing has fluctuated from 9.5 to 10.5 and what have you. So maybe the fact that it's back up to 9.5 here, this could be a good spot, but it's not really like, you know, Milwaukee covers the point guard position all that well. But if Steph does try and take it into his own hands from a points perspective, then maybe we're like, okay, well, yeah, like he's going to not pass, and he's not going to try and crash the boards because he's doing the point scoring. So he hit this in 9 straight games before last night when he went for 14. So this is probably the only thing that I could look at in terms of a player prop perspective. Nothing else jumps off the page to me. All right, Spurs taking on the Bulls. This one seems fairly simple to me here. I like Chicago, -6 points. Like, had the Bulls not won handily and honestly playing decent basketball, which is crazy, the Bulls have covered in 5 straight games and in 6 of their last 10. But have they not been doing that? I think the spread's obviously a hell of a lot bigger, right? So I'm going to kind of put it in a vacuum and say, okay, the Bulls still aren't a very good basketball team. They're covering, sure. They have 2 straight wins, Detroit, Charlotte, like, you know what I mean? It's not all that crazy that they have these last 2 wins. So I'm going to lean towards Chicago here. Both these teams coming off of losses last night. And not that I'm putting weight into Chicago being good in no-rest situations, but San Antonio 0-4 against the spread this season on back-to-back. So I'll take that. When it comes to player props here, I really like looking at Wembanyama's over 1.5 rebounds in the first quarter again. Like, that has been a cheat code this season. We rolled with it last night, put 2 units on it. And Chicago just overall here, good defensive team, slow team, but allowing the 10th most rebounds, actually the 9th most rebounds to opposing centers in their last 7 games. Wembanyama at the beginning of the games, it's like the Spurs are just not letting, but he's the biggest guy on the floor no matter who he's going up against or on his team, right? So it's like he's grabbing those early rebounds where, you know, there's definitely a few opportunities for them. So I expect him to be able to get 2 boards again. We're starting to pay more and more juice on it. Like last night it was -160, so we did put 2 units on it, but even still that ROI isn't necessarily there. It's a lot of juice. So we'll see what that line comes out at. But as of right now, that's a player prop I like in this spot. I continue to like, honestly, DeMar DeRozan's assist number. If it stays at 4.5, I don't mind that either. This isn't a Spurs team that allows a lot of assists to small forward, so caveat and a little asterisk there. They're actually allowing the fewest assists to the small forward position over the last 7, so maybe we stay away from it. But again, this is a guy that, you know, he's had the potential assists there in his last 7 years, averaging 9.3 potential assists. I'll keep taking him to get 5 assists until that gets too juiced of a play as well, because he's not a passer, but the volume has been there. Didn't talk about the total here. The total in this spot is kind of tricky to me. Again, both these teams on back-to-backs. I think if I had a gun to my head, I would lean towards the under, but that San Antonio defense is so poor and really doesn't stop. You know, they're like a Matador or whatever, Olay, and it's like I can't really take an under with them, but I'll lean towards the under, but I don't think that makes its way into the final plays here. All right, Dallas taking on the Pelicans. So, like yesterday, tons of guys on the injury report, but the Pelicans are looking like they're at full strength. They are obviously on a back-to-back as well, so that's something to note. Dallas coming in with a huge win, you know, a couple days ago against New York. The Pelicans coming off of a loss against Denver. But again, you can kind of justify losses against Denver, especially in Denver, right? This is a New Orleans team that the only thing that worries me is the fact that they have 2 games here in Dallas. Which one do they decide to get up for? I'm thinking it's this one because next game they have a look ahead to being on a road stand for a little while. So I'm going to like the Pelicans in this spot here. Plus 2.5, I think, is a decent number as well. I think the Pelicans could win this game outright. And right now on the money line, they're getting some decent odds there as well. I think your best bet is plus 130 over on Caesars. Total perspective, 229. A little bit too high for my liking. I think this probably finishes in the high 220s. But if the Pelicans win this game, I think this game could be like a 115 to say, or the Pelicans keep it close. I think this could be like a 115 to 110 type of game, meaning, again, kind of right there at the total, but just not necessarily over. One of my favorite plays in this spot is actually going to be taking a peek at Kyrie Irving's under assists here. So no Luka, I get that, but without Luka this season, he's hit the under in 2 of his last 3, and he went ballistic in that New York game. Like, it's not like Kyrie Irving's going to do that every single time, and he's going up against the Pelicans team here that allows the 5th fewest assists to the point guard position, so I like my chances there, especially, again, with just the fact that we're looking at a high number. It's under 7.5. The dude in his last week of basketball is averaging 9.2 potential assists, so getting 8 is a little bit crazy here. He's going to have his opportunities. Like I said, he had 10 assists in his last game here. And from a volume perspective, Kyrie Irving had 14 potential assists, so he converted on a lot of those. Usually you look at that number being cut in half, but he converted on a lot of those. But again, this is a good Pelicans defense. Kyrie Irving under 7.5 assists is definitely got a strong chance of being a final play here, as well as the Pelicans either plus 2.5 or money line. All right, Utah taking on the Lakers. Obviously, we have a long injury report for the Lakers, including Anthony Davis and LeBron James, who are both questionable with ankles. I don't know why they're bumping ankles together, but not saying they're doing anything, but who knows? But nonetheless, they're always on the injury report. They're probably going to play. Utah here, who is just ahead of Los Angeles in the rankings. They're 10th in the West. LA is 11th. They're playing good basketball. Like seriously, they've won 8 of their last 10 games. They've covered in 8 of their last 10. It's kind of crazy to see what they've been doing. So I'm giving Utah credit here, and I think that success somewhat continues here. From an injury perspective, nothing really to note on their side of things. But, you know, do the Lakers just decide to win this game? Like, the Lakers have been getting up and wanting to win, you know, games against good teams. And, you know, it's been fairly inconsistent betting on or against them. So we'll see where we make up from a final play perspective. But Utah plus 2.5 at home seems like almost too easy, to the point where it's like, seems like it might be a trap, but I'm still going to lean towards Utah here. Total sitting at 238.5. Give me the under. I don't think that the Lakers offense is totally going to jive and click today. And this Utah offense, obviously it's been on fire, right? The defense has been good. Their last few games here, 109, 116, 111, and 113 in terms of what they've been able to hold their opponents to. Not all that bad. Nothing jumps out player prop perspective over here. Maybe taking a peek at Colin Sexton, whether it's rebounds and assists or points. I like his chances today. I kind of like the matchup as well. Cam Reddish, you know, looks like he's going to get the start. He hasn't been playing that many minutes, but I don't mind Colin Sexton's points either. Like I said, the guy's shooting plenty. 14, you know, or get 12 to 14 shots per game to get 18.5, you know, 19 points. Don't mind that whatsoever. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.